Good morning, everyone, and welcome to not the photography masterclass. We need a new intro, so I got to get people working on that. But welcome to the new photography morning show. That's right. So, for those of you who missed my masterclass on Friday, I explained that or the Adobe Live team is taking on a new approach to scheduling. So the master classes that we know and love will still happen. They just won't happen every Friday. So there will be a Friday master class. Just we'll have to keep you abreast of the schedule. But then each of the evangelists will do their own show during the week. So this is my first episode on the new topic, the photography masterclass or photography morning show. Gonna have to get used to that. So what's going to be the difference? And I thought about that. Like, I was just like, how am I going to distinguish between the two? Because I'm kind of, it's going to be showing you Lightroom stuff today. But going forward, what I would rather do for this show is I'd rather keep most of the editing techniques and all that to the masterclass. And this one, we talk more about photography. So we talk more about like the last shoot that I did, and yeah, we'll bring up some images and maybe edit them, but then we'll get into how to like what went in, what was behind the scenes in the shooting process, and talk about different pieces of camera equipment. So we'll do a little bit more camera work, a little bit behind the camera. In this show, we'll bring on special guests also. Like this show, I'll have way more guests than I had on the master class. So we'll kind of keep this like a morning show format. And someone said, hey, it's afternoon here. It's morning somewhere. It's morning in San Jose. It's afternoon for me too. It's 12 noon. But it's the morning show in San Francisco. It's the morning show. It's 9 a.m. in San Francisco. So that's the time zone we live by. But yeah, it's afternoon for me too. All right, so now that we got all that out of the way, let's dive into today's topic. So today's first episode, we're gonna still kind of do some of that Lightroom stuff that we know and love from the masterclass. But going forward, I plan to map out more photography, and we'll still get into some photography stuff today as well. I just went to New York a couple weeks ago. I got some shots we're gonna look at there. We're gonna look at some of the behind the scenes and how those shots were captured. One person or a few people actually asked on one of the scenes that I posted, I would love to see the behind the scenes on the original and how you edited that. So we're going to do that. So you actually will get some photography even in today's episode. All right, so with that out of the way, and of course the usual, if you're watching this on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, I think that's it. Great. If you're watching it on Behance, which is where the show is sponsored by Adobe, I work for Adobe. Sponsored by Adobe. Then that's the main chat that I'll be looking at. So I'll be looking at the Behance chat, but also like I see Deb over on Facebook, and I see people on LinkedIn, and I see Phil over on YouTube. So I'll definitely look at both chats, but the main one that I have to pay attention to is the one over on b.net/Adobe Live, right there. Yeah. So if you want to head over there, it's free Adobe ID to log in, and you're in, and then you can participate in that main chat. Just in case I miss your question, hi Nina, just in case I miss your question over on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or wherever you happen to be. All right, so with that said, let's do a couple of things. Let's talk about the new Lightroom update. I'm going to do that first, and then we'll dive in. Now, the Lightroom update that just happened in June, so this month. There's a couple mobile features. I'm going to get to those, but I want to do the desktop stuff first, and then we'll bring up the phone and we'll talk about the mobile stuff. I'm just looking at the list there. There's like two things I want to talk about for desktop. All right, so whether you're in Lightroom Classic or you're in Lightroom, you should have these options. So, I don't even have Lightroom launched. Let's launch Lightroom. So we'll let that launch in the background. But anyway, you should, launched over there. All right, so it's up. Let's go ahead and move it over. I want to just get to the same album. So we're talking intelligently about the same things. All right, let's move this over. All right, cool. So whether you're in Lightroom or Lightroom Classic, these two desktop features should apply because they're mostly in the develop module in Lightroom Classic or the edit panel in Lightroom cloud version, as some of you like to refer to it. Also, I saw a question. I'm going to go ahead and answer that question right off the bat before I forget. Let me scroll back up to the question. It was about Lightroom Classic previews. I just want to get to it before I forget. I saw it earlier. There it is. So Sean asked, and just we'll deal with this question right off the bat and then move on. If you want to move your previews in Lightroom Classic to an external drive, what's the best way to do that? And really, there's only one way to do it, and it's because there's no real way to separate them. So let me explain what I mean by that. If I were to go into Lightroom Classic right now, oops, I must have clicked on the map thing. Hang on, get back. If I were to go into Lightroom Classic right now, and I were to select, let's say all of these photos right here, and I were to go into the photo menu, if I were to go into the library menu and I were to build one-to-one previews. So what I'm saying to Lightroom Classic at this point is build a nice big preview so that when I look at this image at 100%, I don't have to wait. You're doing your waiting now. It's kind of happening behind the scenes, but you can build them for a whole collection, a whole folder, a whole whatever. You can build all your previews. But where is it actually putting those one-to-one previews? Well, it's actually putting them in a file it's its own file format next to your catalog. So your previews stay local to your catalog. They're not with the images. Your images can be on external drives. Your images can be on a NAS, a network drive. Your images can be wherever. But the catalog is usually local to your computer. It's either on an internal drive on your computer or it's on an external drive on your computer, but not a network drive. So I keep my catalog on my internal laptop drive, so that way when I travel, I always have my catalog with me. However, if you want the previews, maybe because I'm assuming because you're running out of room, if you want the previews to be on an external drive, there's no real way to do that other than putting the catalog on an external drive too. So it's either one or the other. It's either all or nothing is what I'm going to say. Either you want it all to be on the external drive, the catalog and the previews, or you don't, because you can't just put the previews over there and keep the catalog on the internal drive, because they don't want you to accidentally separate them. Now, you can, if you're running out of room, what happens is people they build previews all the time like I just did. You build a preview even if you don't intend to, just by going into the image at full screen or one-to-one. So even if I didn't have a preview for this image, one just got built because I did go to look at that image. So if you find that you're running low on space where your catalog is, and you're saying, hey, I don't really need all these previews I built from 6 months ago, then I would recommend, before you even think about moving the catalog, that you go up to your file menu and you optimize your catalog. Because what that does is it checks the integrity of your catalog, it optimizes it, and it gets rid of previews that are old. Because previews can always be rebuilt. So if you have previews that, like I just clicked on a file and I haven't clicked on that file in 6 months, I don't need the preview anymore, I'm not looking at that file anymore, it will get rid of those old previews. And if you happen to go back 6 months later and click on that file again or that image again and make it full screen, then it'll build a new preview at that time. So previews can be discarded without too much issue, other than next time you go look at that image, it's just gonna have to build it again. That's it. So if you're running out of space, get rid of the previews, optimize catalog, which will get rid of old ones, or just discard previews on your own manually, and it will rebuild them as needed. So just use this optimize. I have mine set to do this at least once a week. When I quit out of my catalog, it backs it up, and the backup process is also part of the backup process is also running an optimization, which does more than just delete previews. It also checks the integrity of the catalog, if I didn't say that already. Okay, now let's get into the two new desktop features, and then we'll get into the mobile features, which are significant, and then we'll get into some New York behind the scenes, and then we'll get into some of the things I did in New York. All right, let's go into this library shot. So this is the JP Morgan library in New York. And I got some of these recommendations on where to shoot from Scott Kelby. So this was on his list of places to shoot. And it's an interesting place. I have another shot from it here that just shows this is actual his library. It just shows you the magnitude of the space. And it's you might be wondering, well, how did you ever get it with no people in it? True story. Sitting there on a bench, waiting, taking a shot. Oh, there's still somebody in the way. Okay, maybe I can remove that person later. Oh, there's still somebody in the way. There was never a time when there wasn't someone in the way. The security guard in the room, took pity on me because he saw me packing up my equipment. Like I was just done. I was like, okay, there's never going to be a time when there's not someone in the way. And he said, hey, I noticed that every time you go to take one of these pictures, there like you start to put your equipment away because why is that? I said, because there's always someone in the way. He said, how long do you need? I said, 10 seconds. Like, cause I was doing a slightly long exposure, like 10 seconds, 15 seconds. He said, okay. He corralled the people to the other side of the library room for 15 seconds, long enough for me to take the shot. So I got some shots with no people in it. Anyway, let's get into the new feature. So let's go into the develop module. And there are 2 new features. Let's say that I'm just trying to find a better example to use. No, not that. Let's go back to the library. Yeah, let's go to the library. And let's say that I go into the mask and I grab the object selection tool and I set the object selection tool to a rectangle. And I go in and rectangle, I don't know how good of a job it's going to do, but I rectangle one of these chairs. All right. Oh, it actually did a really good job. So I got the chair selected now, and we can go ahead and zoom in on that. Ooh, whoa. What happened there? Where'd my image go? Hang on. It kind of scrolled off canvas there. Let's go back. There we go. I don't know why it's scrolling when I zoom in from the keyboard, but anyway, let's go back to the mask. All right, so we got our mask there. And what I want to do is go into 2 things. Number 1, in the point curve now, you can, of course, make adjustments here. This is a fairly new feature, the ability to make a point curve adjustment or make a curves adjustment in a mask. So this is fairly new, but the new feature as of June, and I'm looking for it here, is that you have the ability, because I've done this over in the other version and I'm not seeing it here. You should have the ability to go in and use saturation. You know what? Let me show you what that looks like. I don't know, maybe that might not be a classic feature yet. Let's pop over here and let's do it in here. So I'm in the same set of photos. And here we'll just go grab one of these. There we go. Oh, we don't have the nice. Sorry about that, folks. All right, we'll use this one. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go to the mask. I just didn't see it there, and I don't want to spend time looking for it. I'm just going to show you where it is here. And I'm going to do an object selection of this chair. Okay, great. And if I go into point curve, there it is. So the slider I was looking for over in Classic that I didn't see was the refine saturation slider. That's it. It just lets you adjust the saturation, refine the saturation in a mask. I don't know when I would ever use that. I would just go down, and if I want to adjust the saturation, I would adjust the saturation. I don't know when I would need the refine saturation slider, but it's there. It makes a very, very subtle change. Now, if I head back over to Classic, was I just missing it? Let's see. Let's go to that mask. Point curve. Oh, it's abbreviated. It's there. I just didn't notice the abbreviation. Refine sat. So it's the same slider. All right, it's there. And see, it's making a much bigger difference here. So this is, oh, sorry, I'm dragging that. All right, Not making a bigger difference. It's making a subtle difference here. And it's doing its thing. It's refining the saturation of the chair ever so slightly. So if you ever thought moving the saturation slider was doing too much or too little, now you can go in and refine the saturation on the point curve. Someone asked for it. It's there now. All right, next up. The other next desktop feature, and this is one that I will kind of like have some fun using. I want to find a shot of a person. Let's see. Let's go here. And let's go into the photography masterclass things. And we'll go there. All right, actually we could use that picture. Let's go into develop. Let's zoom out. And you'll notice when I zoom into this area here, let me zoom in properly. There's a bit of grain there, but not a ton. Well, now you can add more grain based on a mask. So if I were to go into the mask and I were to select subject, or I could have just said select background. Let's actually do that instead. Let's undo. There we go, mask. And let's select the background instead. That's what I really want. And now you can go in and you could actually apply. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? There should be a grain in the mask option here. There it is, grain. You can now apply grain to that background. So there we go. So whether or not you're trying to lessen the grain, so you can move it down, that's another way, or you want to add grain to a particular masked object, you now have the option to do that. So grain makes its way into individual selective masks. All right, so that could create some really cool effects, especially for whatever it is you're trying to do. Next up, let's head over to mobile. So I'm going to bring up my phone. And let's bring up Lightroom on my phone. And we're going to do two things while we're here. Let's first of all show you the phone. All right, this is a major change to Lightroom on mobile. And it threw me at first because when I first did the upgrade, it prompted me with an option. It asked me if I wanted to still leave my auto import turned on, because I had auto import turned on so that every time I launched Lightroom on phone, I would get, oh, sorry about that, a network thing. I would get all the new images that were taken with the iPhone's camera imported into Lightroom. So I wouldn't have to think about it. Every time I launched Lightroom, any new images I've taken would import in automatically. Now that works in theory great for any new images you want. You're going to have them already in Lightroom, but it also means you're going to have images you don't want. Because sometimes you're taking a picture with your phone, you don't really need it in your Lightroom catalog. You might be taking a picture of a receipt. You might be taking a picture of a box that you want to show someone what product to get. You don't need all of those in your Lightroom catalog just because you took that image. So it was either back to the all or nothing. Either I'm going to get them all in and then delete the ones I don't want, or I'd have to remember to manually import the ones I do want. Well, this feature, the team nicknames it BYOCR, bring your own camera roll. So BYOCR, something like that. Bring your own camera roll. So basically what it means now is you can still leave on auto import if you want it, or you can turn it off. And now Lightroom will not automatically import all your photos. It will not import any photos unless you edit them. So before this update, if you wanted to, like this picture of Pixel in the upper left corner there, if I wanted to edit that shot of Pixel, I would have to first bring it into Lightroom to do any Lightroom editing on it. And then it's in Lightroom, and then I can edit. So what was happening to new users of Lightroom on mobile, because a lot of people start with mobile, like they don't have the desktop product at all. They just want to be able to use the editing. And they just would give up because they didn't understand the import process. Well, now they can, they don't have to import. They just launch Lightroom and their camera rolls right there. Now watch what happens. If I tap on this photo, I get an edit button. And then if I hit edit, that photo is being imported into Lightroom and I get all my editing capabilities right off the bat. I don't even have to think about the importing. It's happening in the background. I can now do, for example, and let's just simply hit auto. I can do an auto, I can do a crop, and I can crop down a little bit. And okay, I've done my edit. Now when I go back out of this photo, notice it has a little LR in the upper left corner. That means that that photo has now been imported into Lightroom. So photos only get imported unless you explicitly tell it to import a photo. So I can still select these photos and say import. Or if I just edit one, it automatically imports them. I don't have to import photos I don't want. The photos on the camera roll will stay on the camera roll until I delete them. And the ones that import, now that that's been imported, I can go back to the OS camera roll and delete it because that one is copied over into Lightroom. So hopefully that can be less confusing. And then we can, then there we go. So you can talk. Is that thing on Pixel's neck so he can talk? Actually, that's a GPS tracker because Pixel can, we don't ever want Pixel to run away and not be able to find them. Anyway, so yeah, both Lisa and Pixel have GPS trackers. So now you'll notice at the very bottom, the left-hand button says device. That's your device camera roll. The Lightroom button shows me Lightroom, so it's showing me the Lightroom photos, and notice that Pixel is there now. And it shows me, it takes me to My Edits, which is another new category. So now you have this new category called My Edits that will show you quickly, takes you to all the photos you've edited in Lightroom. So all the new ones you've edited, all the ones you just edited. So the one there of the model that I had just done is there because I did an edit. The library is there. All the other ones are there from my previous edits. So if I now go in to all photos, and I go up to the top here, oh, that's actually an older photo. So it'll be down further, but it will be there as well. So my edits, the device, the camera roll, it's all there. All right, next one is, and this is one that people, I've been showing this one since it first came out. And people are like, how do I do this? Do I have to set it to record? Do I have to do all this stuff? What I'm referring to is there's a new feature, and I want to get the name right, Create Edit Replay. And what Create Edit Replay means is that it will make a video automatically of any photo you've edited in Lightroom and everything you've done to it. So for example, remember we brought this photo in and it just now showed me the edit. So let's go in and do a couple more edits. Let's change I want to do something just drastic so we can see it. Let's do a preset. And we're not going to do adaptive portrait. We're going to do edgy. Oh, it's not a portrait. There we go. Auto plus retro. Let's do some of those. And none of those really look drastic enough. Let me back out. Dun, 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 dun. Nope, he's not in the concert. Lifestyle, travel, urban. I'm just looking for something that will make a big difference. Let's do vintage. All right, we'll do this one. There we go, let's tap it. Let's do the amount slider. Okay, there we go. We got a nice vintage, old school look to the photo now. So we'll do that, and we'll also go into lighting, and we'll just bump up the exposure just a bit. So I'm just doing this all on the phone right here, giving it that old kind of almost Polaroid look to it. And we'll also make a big difference in the color here. Let's go to color, and let's really warm it up. Okay, so I just made a bunch of drastic changes so we can see the difference. Now, if we were to hold down one finger, if I'm holding down one finger on the image, we can see the before and the after. So that's the before and the after. That's where we started minus the crop. And that's the after now that we ran a preset and we made some manual adjustments, so forth and so on. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to show people this edit. I want to show people what I've done so far. So before, you could simply share the photo, the before photo and the after photo. You could export them out and say, here's the before, here's the after. But if you want people to be able to walk through what you actually did, there's a create, edit, replay feature right here, right there. And you don't have to think about it. You don't have to like set it up first. You don't have to tell it to record. You don't have to do anything. You can go back to a photo you edited 6 years ago. As long as those Lightroom edits are still in the photo, because Lightroom edits stay with the photo forever until it's non-destructive, you can make this feature. So I think I just tapped it. It's working on it. It says hang tight. Tag Lightroom for a chance to get featured. I tag Lightroom, they never feature me. Kidding. They never do. And what it's going to do is hopefully export out or allow me to export out and share a video. It's almost done. And there it is. I can now say save the video. And if I were to pop out here and pop over to my videos, there it is. So now it's playing the video back. So I'm not doing anything. It did the text, it did the original. It's now walking through all the steps that it did. And then it shows me the Lightroom logo at the back. All right. Is this just on mobile? Yes, it's just on mobile. As a matter of fact, I looked for it on iPad. I didn't see it on iPad, so it's just on phones. So it should be on your iOS, iPhone. I shouldn't even say iOS. Your iPhone or your Android phone. So let me hit play again. So it shows you the after, shows you the before or original, then does the crop, tunes the lighting, adjusts the colors, applies effects, after, and that's it. Then you get the Lightroom branding. So I had someone say to me, and I agree. Like they were like, hey, is there going to be any way for us to put our own branding in? Because otherwise this is just an ad for Lightroom. And I thought about that. I was like, got a point there. Keep in mind, this is a video. You could take it into Adobe Rush, put your own branding on. You don't have to end with that last tag. You can put whatever you want at the end of it. You can put 3 or 4 of these together like I did. I shared 3 or 4 of these on social media. So if you go look at my Instagram Reels, you'll see where I put together a bunch of these. And there you go. As a matter of fact, let me pop out of this for a second. I'll go find that. I just don't want you to see all the trash on my Instagram. Let's go back. Here we go, Reels. All right, here we go. And let's switch back to the phone. There we go. So here's what I did. You saw it started off with my own logo. I did my own branding up front, and I strung multiples of these together in a video, and I added music to it and a reel. So you're not hearing the music, but if you go look at my reels, you'll see this. So there's another before and after. I just put them back to back, and it's showing the before, or the original, I should say, not the before, the original. Shows all the things I did to it, and then the after. Here's another portrait, the original, or the after, the original. Set the color profile, I did a crop, I tuned the lighting. It's your thing, do what you want to do. That's right, Reverb Mike. Here's another Brooklyn Bridge. This isn't from this month's shoot, but this was from a few years back when I went there, and I was actually on a boat when I took that shot. Straightened it out. Yep. It's hard getting that from a moving boat, by the way. And then I left the branding at the end. But anyway, that just shows you that you can make this whatever you want. It's a video. You don't have to stick with the actual, the end result. It exports the video out to your camera roll. You can then do whatever you want to do with that video, and including editing it together with other videos, putting your own branding in, cutting the Lightroom tag off at the end if you don't want it. It's your video, do what you want. All right, so that takes you through the latest Lightroom updates. Again, two big significant ones on mobile, the ones in the develop module on both Lightroom Classic and Lightroom. Okay, I kind of like, of the two, I don't like the saturation slider, doesn't do a whole lot for me, but the noise thing I could definitely see or I shouldn't say noise, the grain thing, I can actually see using that quite a bit in my masking and adding grain to specific areas of a photo. So that's going to be great. All right, let's jump out of this. Let's go back to our New York shots, our behind the scenes there. And let's talk a little bit about photography, and then we're going to do that edit that I talked about before. So I've shot long exposures before for years, but I never really had the equipment, the proper filters, I should say, to do super long exposures. So when I say super long, an exposure that might be a minute or 2 minutes or just longer than your average 30 seconds or so. The problem with doing a super long exposure is that if you do a super long exposure during the day, chances are without a filter, you'll just have a white frame. It'll just be completely white because the shutter's open for so long, letting so much light in, it will completely wash out the photo. So actually what I want to do is I want to go back to here. I want to go here and I want to show you, here we go. So this is how these shots came to be. So long exposure in the morning, and it was not my intent for the photo to look like this. It was not my intent to have this much daylight. What I was going for, so that's the non-long exposure, that's the long exposure, so you get that silky smooth water. What I was going for was a sunrise. So still dark outside, sunrise shot. And the one thing I just didn't account for, I brought all the right equipment. I knew where the location was. The one thing I did not factor in was how, I got up early, was how long it would take us to get from the hotel to the spot. So I got up and out like around 5 a.m. before sunrise. But I wasn't walking out of the hotel room and ready to shoot. I had a 30 minute drive to get here. So I made us late because I just didn't think about, you're going to have to get up an extra half hour or hour earlier for the commute to get there on time. So I blew it. That morning, I just blew it. I blew it from a time perspective, not from a photography perspective. I was just there at the wrong time. So I did get a couple blue hour shots. So this is like in the morning, that nice. This one actually is okay. I'm okay with this one. It's just not what I intended. And so you get that nice, silky, long exposure look. So here's what it takes to get a shot like this. And Robert's, it's not a black filter. It's actually called a neutral density filter. So just for those of you who are unfamiliar with the terminology, a neutral density filter comes in multiple different densities. So darkness, and they're in the other room, I don't have them here. But basically, it's a filter that goes over your lens, so it screws on or snaps on or magnetic or whatever design you get. And it's like putting a pair of sunglasses over your camera. That's the best way to describe it. So the darker the sunglasses, the longer the longer the exposure you can do, because the darkness of the filter takes into account, it makes it so the shutter can stay open longer without washing out the photo. Best way to describe it. So I had the neutral density filter on. I was all set. I just didn't get there early enough that morning. All right. And neutral density filters, you can get a 3-stop, you can get a 6-stop, you can get an 8-stop, you get a 10-stop, whatever it is. How many ever stops you want. It also blocks, it blocks glare. Peter's saying it blocks glare and defines skies. And that's the other cool thing. Not only do you get the silky smooth water, most likely the clouds are moving, so you get some nice blurry clouds that are naturally forming because they're moving over time. So the longer you can leave the shutter open, and you have to be on a tripod, there's no way you're going to hand hold this. Forget about hand holding it. There's no hand in the world steady enough to hold your camera open for more than not even a second. So let alone 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 10 minutes, or not 10 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever it is, you're never going to hand hold it long enough. So you're going to need a tripod. You're going to need a neutral density filter, depending on how many stops you want for how dark it's going to be. This was a 10 stop filter, so that's pretty darn dark. As a matter of fact, it's so dark that once the filter's on the camera, you can't see the scene anymore. Like the scene is just completely black. But the camera can see through it long enough, or with the exposure open, or the shutter open long enough to be able to bring in enough light. So the steps to capture one of these: camera on a tripod, no filter, set your focus, like autofocus, whatever you want. Then switch it to manual focus, because you're not going to be able to see it once you put the filter on. So get the focus right, filter, now you can't even see it anymore. And you're going to put your camera either in bulb mode. So that's when you keep scrolling the number, the shutter speed to the point to where it says bulb. Or in my case, I did it with time. So the difference between bulb and time, and by the way, you probably want a shutter release, whether it's your camera app on your phone or a physical button with a cable or wireless that you do a shutter release with, however you do it. So what about a skylight filter? I don't know what a skylight filter is, Peter. Sorry about that. So don't you have to focus? Yep, that's what I said. You focus before you put it on. All right, so in bulb, you're holding down the button for as long as you want it to be, want the shutter to be open. You let go, it closes. In time, you click, the shutter opens for as long as you want, and then you click again, the shutter closes. So it just depends on which one you want to go with. Like, I prefer time because I don't want to sit there holding the button for a minute. I just click, set a timer on my watch. There's actually there are ND timer apps on your phone. There's one called ND timer on iOS and Android. And it will tell you how long you need. And then you just click it again and you get a shot like this. Okay, so that's the process of how to do it. If you're using an optical viewfinder, yes, with mirrorless, the camera compensates, so you still need to see through the digital viewfinder. Okay, so someone's answering someone's questions. All right, so that's how that morning went. So I was okay. Like I wasn't okay. I was really disappointed. I was disappointed that I just forgot to factor in time. So I figured, well, we're here for the weekend. I'm going to come back, not the next morning, but at night. So I came back at night because then I don't have to worry about it. I come back at sunset. It's only going to get darker. I don't have to worry about the sun coming up and racing the sun. And this was the shot that I wanted, that I actually got. That's what I wanted. All right, so this was at I can look at the settings here. I think it was F22. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. 14 lens, 18 millimeter, manual. Trying to look at the settings here. Okay, there we go. F20, 75 seconds. So 1 minute and 15 seconds at F20. Now, anything at F20, F22 is going to give you, when you shoot lights, it's going to give you those nice star-like patterns. Very sparkly, yes. And it just gave me the beautiful shot that I wanted. Now, this was after I processed it in Lightroom. So I didn't really have to do much other than I just wanted some tonal differences. So I'm going to show you, I don't know, I think here's the original before I did anything. So like people are like, how'd you get the sky that color? Well, the sky was kind of that color. I didn't really do anything. This is the original with, we go into the develop module with no adjustments. That's kind of it. And then I went in and tweaked it. So here's what I did. I'll show you one that's completely out of the camera. This was just a different different composition. So I got a little bit more of the foreground rocks there. It's crooked. So this is literally out of the camera, not touched. So let's go in and let's go through it. So first and foremost, I got to straighten that horizon line. Because if you don't straighten it now, you'll forget, and then you'll print it, and then you'll be disappointed when the print comes back crooked. Then I did my usual. So I did my landscape for the, actually I think I did, instead of camera landscape, I did camera vivid because I wanted vivid colors. And then I hit auto tone. I always hit auto tone. Hello. There we go. I hit auto tone and I'm like, oh, no, that's not what I want. So then I go in and I start tweaking the things that I don't want. I don't want the exposure that bright. I don't want, actually I'm pretty cool with everything else. Yeah, I'm pretty cool with everything else. Then I think I went in and just made sure it was sharper. So I went into the detail and I sharpened it up a bit. And also notice that you can go into, because you're not working with people, so you can add a little texture to it, kind of make the colors pop a little bit more. And if you go in too far, you'll see if you overdid it or not, if you go in far enough. This was something going by in the sky, I guess, with that long exposure, so there's something there. Actually, I'll leave that there. It's kind of cool. Then how I got the sky to look the purpley color, even more purpley, was actually an adaptive preset. So if I go to my adaptive presets, these are the ones that come with Lightroom. I think I did, it wasn't dark drama, maybe it was storm clouds. I think I did storm clouds on that last one. Because blue drama is making it a little too blue. Dark drama is too dark. Neon is the wrong color. Storm clouds, I think is what I ended up with, because it was going to, and that sunset's not the right color. So it must have been storm clouds. And then you have an intensity slider, or maybe you don't for that one. Nope, you don't for that one. Let's see, blue drama. Yeah, blue drama I had one, so maybe I did use blue drama. Oh, maybe I did. I think I used blue drama in this case and just backed it off a little bit because it was too much. So that's no blue drama. That's too much blue drama. And blue drama has an amount slider. And then I went in and probably adjusted the shadows a bit more, pumped those up a little bit more. I don't even think I did any selective adjustments on this. This is kind of just ended up that way. So that's how I got ultimately to this shot. Now, the only reason that this one doesn't look, the one we were just on, doesn't look as good is because there's so much of the foreground in the shot. If I were to crop this and move it tighter, it would kind of end up being the same exact shot. But the foreground just gives you another interesting perspective. I don't know that I necessarily like this kind of brick barge over here. And that's a platypod sitting there. I would probably remove that. I don't know, that looks like another piece of camera equipment. That looks like a piece of camera equipment. So I would definitely remove those out of the shot. But yeah, here's our before. That's where we started. Here's our after, just with a couple of quick things done in Lightroom. All right. Next up. Oh, I forgot to tell another part of the story. So remember I went and shot it that morning, and I showed you the morning shots and the blue hour and all that. Well, when you go to this location in Brooklyn Park, you're like, I've never been here before. I'm expecting there to be like 100 photographers standing there waiting to shoot. There was no one there. There was no one there in the morning. There was no one there in the evening. Had the whole place to myself, or ourselves. Victoria and I were there. Now, there were a couple people that walked up like randomly while we were shooting. One person was just using their iPhone, and another person did bring a camera, but they, and I was looking at them like, I don't comment to other photographers I don't know. But he didn't have a tripod. I'm like, dude, you're never going to get a good shot of this without a tripod. But he did like kind of, he set it on one of the rocks up front and kind of like positioned it. And I think he like set it there and did a trigger or whatever. So he was able to get a shot, at least that way. Now, when you go to this area, it's literally, if you turn a corner, you walk to your left, and if you keep walking, you'll walk into the water. Like it's literally like a shoreline. So you just walk down as far as you can. There's like a little fence area, a little chain that says don't go past this point. And that chain, I ignored it. I climbed over the chain and I stepped like 4 feet further over because I wanted to get enough of the left-hand side when I took the shot that morning. However, that evening, that's the sign. That I was standing on the other side of that sign in the morning. That was not going to happen in the evening because the tide had come in. Like the water had come all the way up to here. Now I took the shot like here. My feet were getting wet. I was standing in the water that evening. But I'm not kidding. When I first turned the corner, I was like, wow, I can't believe they moved the sign. And then it dawned on me, idiot, they didn't move the sign. The water came in that far. Because like past the sign is at least another good 8 feet in the morning before you hit water. It was that much water had come in and it was still rising. So we got our shots and we left. But like I was standing like right on the edge. Water was hitting my tripod, hitting the feet. And that's the other thing you don't want to happen is you don't want to have a tide hitting your tripod, especially on a long exposure, because that's going to create enough of a vibration to make your shot out of focus. So that's the other thing you're fighting with is you want it to be like you want it to be, you know, in focus. So you're fighting with, if I move the camera so far to the right to not be in the water, then I'm not getting the perspective and the angle I want. So I traded off a little bit, set it a little bit in the water. The water wasn't hitting it very hard and took the shots that I wanted. But yeah, that's where I was standing like right about here in the morning and the water was out to here in the morning and now it was way past the sign. So they didn't have to worry about putting the sign there in the evening. No one's going to go that far unless you're going for a swim. All right. So that was the little story behind the scenes on that particular shot. And here, by the way, this is what the camera looked like with the taking the behind the scenes shot of the camera at night, further to the right. I couldn't go to the left as far as I wanted because of the water. And that is the, I don't know if you can see it, but the neutral density filter is on the end there. You can't really see it. But I use the ones by a company called Case, K-A-S-E. And that's it. Yeah, don't let the tide hit the tripod. Exactly. All right, so that's my Z8 on a tripod, taking long exposures at night. All right, the other thing I want to point out, and this was kind of just fun to do, and also since we're talking as in a photography show, this is Dumbo, and Dumbo is just an interesting place. I had never been there in the morning, so it's kind of like, in the morning after that failed attempt at Brooklyn Park, we walked and walked and walked and came over here to Dumbo. And I walked right past it because I had only been there in the evening where there were hundreds of people. And when I looked down the street, I was like, oh, that can't be it because there's nobody there. Just like we kept walking. We walked right past it. And then we get past it and like, well, this doesn't look right either. And we came back and realized that, yeah, this is the spot. This is the famous spot that everyone shoots. It was just that time of morning where it was early enough where there just hadn't been any people there yet. By the time we left, dozens of people had arrived and were shooting. Everyone comes to shoot this location. People do wedding shots here. People do music videos here. People do all kinds of things here for photography. So there's always photographers here. But I'd never seen it empty, and I thought I was in the wrong spot. Anyway, right spot, just that 20 minutes, 30 minutes before people start arriving. Okay, so this time, I've shot this before, but this time I made sure I got down low enough to shoot. And by the way, I'll show you previous shots. Hang on, let's go here. Let's get out of that, and let's go to Dumbo. Yeah, this is it with people. So like this is the shot I did a couple years before, and there are people everywhere, and I kind of just shot up above everyone's head. But yeah, you're gonna always have people there if you go anytime after 8 a.m. I was there probably around 7 something. Okay, so anyway, going back to the shot, no people. I got down low with the platypod, Z8, shooting wide, and shooting to make sure I got the manhole cover. Now, in this particular shot, I think this is the edit. No, this is not the edit. This particular shot, to make it, the street, it had rained, but the street had dried. To make it look wet, I did a manual mask. Here, let me see if I can find one that's not done so I can walk you through it. Hang on. Let's go here to here. This should take me to all the shots I took. And let's see if we can find one that's not been done yet. Here's one. All right, so see how dry that is? Yeah, that's the way it looked. So it was dry. It hadn't been, I wanted that wet look. So let's do a couple things here. Let's go in and auto tone this. There we go. And that adjusted the exposure and everything, but it didn't give me the detail I wanted. So to get that wet look of pavement, you're going to do two things. You're going to grab a mask. You're going to do a brush. And you're going to go in, you're going to adjust two settings. You're going to do clarity at 100%. Just crank it all the way to 100. Make your brush nice and big because you're just going to be brushing. And you're just going to paint over this area. You're not done yet. 100% clarity. And next, you're also going to use the same paint stroke. You're just going to set your contrast to 100%. 100% clarity, 100% contrast, and that will give you that wet look. Now, if you want to be wetter, you could just create another mask. So you could say, create another brush mask, and you're going to do the same thing. Contrast 100%. There we go. And clarity 100%, or less, because maybe you want 150%. Altogether. So maybe you don't need as much clarity for that second mask, and maybe you don't need as much contrast for the second mask to give you the look you want. So you can adjust accordingly. So that's how I got the look of the manhole cover or person hole cover to look wet. Now, the thing that I experimented with after the fact, and this is not a Lightroom thing, this is more of just a fun thing to do in Photoshop, is I got lucky. There was a time that there weren't any people there, but there's always cars there. Like, because the people live there. The people are parking on the street, no matter what. There's no time of day when you get there that there are no cars there. So, can we have it without cars? Yes, we can. Thanks to Generative Fill. So I took this into Photoshop. I selected the left side of cars. Generative Fill, no prompt, remove them. Select the right side of the right side of the street. Generative Fill, no cars, remove them. But the thing I didn't like about it is, yes, it removed the cars, but it didn't know about the side, like it didn't put the sidewalk back. So I made another selection. It took a while to get the right sidewalk. And I just kept generating a sidewalk until I got the one that I wanted. So that's what it looks like without the cars. So street cleaning day, yes. So with cars, and I'll probably on the final, I'll probably put the people were like, why did you get rid of the fire escape? That looks cool. So I'll put the fire escape back in my final one. But I got rid of the fire escape just playing with it. And I got rid of the street vendor down there in the far end of the street. I got rid of that too. And there was a person walking right here. I got rid of that person too. And that's kind of what I did. I also did a sky replacement on the bridge, and it kind of softened the bridge up. So I go back and redo that as well. So just again, kind of just playing with it. Some people, like when they see it without the cars, they're like, they freak out. They don't know what to do because you're just so used to seeing the cars there. But if I'd shown you this and you never saw the cars, you wouldn't miss them. Like, you only miss them now because you saw them a minute ago. Like, you saw them a few seconds ago. You know what they look like. All right, folks. Thanks for joining me on my first episode of the Photography Morning Show. With that said, stay tuned for more content here on Adobe Live. We'll be back, or Adobe Live will be back with more content, the next show that's coming up. And be sure to put in the comments what you'd like to see going forward on this show, because the masterclass is going to stay the same for editing and mostly that stuff. But from the photography standpoint, what would you like to see? So with that said, cheers everyone. Thanks for watching, and be sure to follow me on social. If you don't put your comment here, send me a comment or tag me on something. Let me know what you're doing. Bye everybody.